All right. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Cap Wilkes. You all know Cap. She's our Director of Program Development here at RHI, and she's going to talk to us all today a little bit about understanding our target markets and how to design value propositions. So I'll turn it over to you, Cap.
Great. Thanks, Angie. And hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. One thing I'm going to note just while I'm starting to talk and get going with our webinar is on the far right side, the name, network, and state is a small short answer pod that we use in Adobe Connect. And one of the nice things about these short answer pods is that when you type your answer in and hit the little icon to the right of it, it shows up down below, but it remains editable so that you can change your answers in a short answer pod I love it because I always spell things wrong, so I can go in and make corrections. I make a note of this because through the webinar today, we'll be using some of those short answer pods, and I want you to be comfortable and familiar using them and how they work. It's a little different than the chat box. The chat box puts our name next to it, but you can't go in and change something once you push the enter button. So that is a little technical piece for Adobe Connect. And we're going to be exploring today the topic of designing, which really is writing our value propositions for your allied health training program target markets. We'll be talking and focusing on this critical aspect of knowing your customer and understanding the problems they're having, because in writing your value propositions, it's not just important to know what they're trying to do, but it's also important to know what their struggles are, or their pains that they're experiencing, and what your target market is hoping for to achieve and to gain. There's many challenges of being successful within your allied health training program, and one of them is engaging with those students and internship organizations and hiring organizations, each as a different customer, and that's what we're meaning by a target market. So engaging that target market and those different customers to a degree is really the challenge of having them be willing to spend their time and resources to be a part of the program that you've put together. One of the answers to this challenge is you all being really good at articulating the value of the programs to each of those different audiences, your target markets, in a way that they understand it as bringing value or benefit to them. So it's articulating the value of your programs in words that are easily understood by your target market from their perspective of benefiting or being valuable to them. I'm going to change over to our next presentation format, which is my PowerPoint. And here it comes. I wanted to also spend just a moment on our Rural Health Innovations purpose slide. The Center and RHI as its subsidiary strive to improve the health of rural communities. We do so by focusing in 5 different areas: value proposition and value and proposition health, health information technology, performance improvement, collaboration, and partnerships, and workforce. And we work with networks and rural health organizations across the country providing technical assistance and services in areas like strategic and business planning and using balanced scorecard for evaluation, marketing efforts, improving efficiencies, and helping organizations transition towards value-based models of care and payment. This purpose really drives our work and is foundational to the kinds of things that we present to you all when we're doing our webinars. For today, our webinar has some objectives, and we're hoping to identify, have you guys identify the importance of clear and focused value propositions. We're looking forward to providing you with a tool to gather information and insights about your own specific target markets. We are hoping that you'll be able to discern value propositions based on what you know about your target markets, And we'll spend some time throughout the presentation bringing in Rural Health Network case study examples, but really key is that some of this intention is that you all are sharing your examples with each other so that as we go through this webinar, you see different ways of approaching or considering your target markets and some of the aspects of developing a value proposition that we'll be going over today. As Angie mentioned, we have a couple of documents for you to download, and I'll be using, referring to them somewhat indirectly. We have the value proposition canvas diagram. That diagram itself is a high-level view of what we'll be talking about, and then the Allied Health Value Proposition tool is a worksheet that we'll be talking through. I won't be turning the pages to the worksheet itself, but we'll be asking questions and talking through the different components throughout the webinar. And following this webinar, we'll post both these documents and this recorded webinar onto our website. And as always, Angie and I will be available for different kinds of questions as they come up when you're working through this for your own projects. We've used these two books as the basis for the tools and resources we've been developing for both business plan development and value proposition development. So business model generation and value proposition designer. They've been created and written in the past several years by a group of authors in an open source environment, with the lead author being Alex Osterwalder. They have additional resources available online. I'm really attracted to these, the writing and the concepts and the ideas presented in these two books. They're very easy to customize and apply to a lot of different environments. Today we're focusing on the value proposition design book. Later in the year I'll be presenting to you tools and resources for developing a business plan, and I'll pull that information and knowledge customized for you all, but out of the business model generation book. As I said, there are also online sources available, and if you really want to dig into this, I'd encourage you to go check it out. I would do a Google search on business model generation, and you'll find the sources that will come right up to the top. So we have been, we're pulling language from these books, but again, the reason that we customize it is so that you can kind of make sense of it. It's really generated out of the business world, but very applicable to nonprofit organizations and particularly networks. So let's go ahead and dive in. One of the first things to talk about is some marketing terminology. And so I'm going to ask you to put your marketing hat on when we're talking about value propositions and target markets. We're really talking inside of the marketing arena. And there's some terms I want to make sure that we are familiar with, as I'll be using them throughout the presentation. When I use the word members, I'm really talking about those folks that you're in partnership with your program. So those are not only your schools and your healthcare organizations, but any other types of members that your network or your program is working with closely. We also use words customer, audience, or stakeholders. So these are the folks that are participating at some degree with your program. They are often used interchangeably, and you'll hear me using them in fairly loosely, and they describe folks like your students or your preceptors or your preceptor organizations or the network leaders of your member organizations, those stakeholders, the hiring organizations themselves, that kind of thing. And generally we would refer to a target market then as those groups of people that are interested in the product that you're delivering. So they're your customers that are most likely to engage in your work, your services, and your products. They can be a combination, all of members, customers, audience, stakeholders. But when we talk about target market, we're really focusing on any one of a group. So it can be a small subset like high schoolers, or it could be a larger group like unemployed folks in our region, folks that are employed at a particular place. You guys are familiar with your target markets, but I want us to use that language together. And then finally, this is not language that you all use very often, but we're really talking about products and services. So your product and services are your training content or the curriculum you've designed or the service or the benefit that you provide to your members through roundtables or other specific aspects of your work that your members use in one way or another. So those are kind of our marketing terminology pieces. I'm going to make a quick comment. I hope you all always know this, that you can raise your hand if you've got a question. And with our size group, it's also very possible for you just to jump into the conversation. So unmute your phone and interrupt, and we can take a question. Otherwise, raising your hand will help, and I can pause, and we can talk about whatever comes up. So another piece is we're kind of diving into this marketing aspect, learning about how we're going to design those value propositions. We want to consider the marketing cycle. I had presented this diagram to you all last November, actually, in 2015, not recently, but a year ago, when we were talking about strategic marketing and how to go about that. And we said, well, let's think about your programs in a 5-phase approach. And the reason I bring it up today and it's important in a marketing environment is because you want to be thoughtful about who your target market is at any particular time, because it shifts as you go through this marketing cycle from students to preceptors to your hiring organizations. And it's in thinking about these different groups of people that you are providing your services to, your curriculum, your programs, your events. We want to understand them really well when we're designing a value proposition. So it's the very first place to gain our insights and kind of ground our thinking as we move ahead. All right. I want to do a double check on kind of the rationale for bringing this particular topic to you at this point in time, and then we'll go ahead and get started with our work and figuring out our value propositions. So why is it important to talk about target markets, products and services, and value propositions at this time in your program? Well, I'm thinking it's important and worth the effort because in order for you to continue your project over time, the bottom line is that your members and your customers, your target market, need to perceive that they are benefiting from the services that you're offering, that they're engaged and willing to spend their time and resources. If they're not going to continue to show up and they won't continue to participate, and you will lose out on that group of people that are using your products and services. You guys are a bit less than halfway through your program, and we wanted to make sure that you have a tool to both double check your thinking for your product and service and also do some fresh thinking on the fit between the needs of your target market, being the students, the preceptor or hiring organizations, and the product and services that you've been developing and delivering, which is your curriculum and events that you've been holding. So these tools, this value proposition worksheet, is a marketing tool. And just as a pause, we want to remember that marketing has 4 components. This is one of the things I talked about last November in 2015. There's product development, which is part of marketing, and that means that it's developing products that meet the needs of your customers. And so in the thinking of a value proposition designer, you're really considering those needs of your members and your customers, your target market, and what kinds of services you can provide that will meet those needs. Place is the other marketing piece, the other second of 4 P words, and that's really about delivering your product and service. And for you guys, it's about designing the delivery of your curriculum. So it's an in-person curriculum, it's all online, or it's one of your hybrid curriculums. It also depends on if you're delivering it where the students live or asking the students to come to you. So that design piece is part of your delivery decisions. The third P is pricing, and that takes into account the developing and implementing of your service. And it also takes into account what you feel like your customers can afford and the price points that are out there, and doing some of that research around pricing. And then lastly, the fourth P in our marketing makeup is the promotion piece. And one of the aspects of value proposition is it's helping you find the language that describes the benefit of the product and services in the words of your target market, those customers and members. So it's about messaging as an outcome of this effort of value proposition design. So in summary, really a good job designing your value proposition is a good step toward both your product development and your promotion. Your target market wants to engage with products and services that meet their needs, and they want to be able to figure this out quickly and easily. If you think about a product or service that you've been marketed to, we really don't, as people, we don't want to work very hard at figuring out the benefit of something for us. So if a organization can't describe the benefits that I'm going to experience by using their product and service pretty succinctly and with language that resonates with me, I'm just going to pass it up and probably go on to a different solution or find a different thing to spend my time and money on. So that's the uphill battle you guys are in, and why we're working on value proposition today. I see no raised hands, but if you have any questions, please speak up. This is the cover page of our value proposition worksheet, and again, it's downloadable through your file share that's right on the lower left of your Adobe screen, and we'll be posting it to the website as well. I'm going to be switching gears here pretty soon and moving into a place where I'm going to ask you all to share with each other some of your thinking as we walk through and practice using this value proposition worksheet. So that's really the intent of today, is practicing using this tool, giving it a trial run so that as you bring it back into your organization, you can use it for further study of your members and developing that value proposition for your products and services. And the very first section of that worksheet, I introduced the value proposition worksheet with this guidance, that it's really the goal of completing this effort is to be able to articulate what your target market really cares about for each of your products and services. And when we jump into an effort such as a value proposition worksheet, we really want to always start with the big picture. So at the very beginning of your worksheet, there's a section that you can fill in that gives you the opportunity to think about the big part of your organization. Who are those really key target market folks, your member organizations they're part of the decision making and governance of your organization? What is the mission and vision of the program that you're developing or the network that you run? And what are those strategic objectives that you're trying to reach? It's starting with this big picture that allows you then, as you move deeper and deeper into your thinking, to keep your thinking grounded and reasonable. So I'm going to switch over to our first page of our of what we're going to do together here. It's probably take about 20 minutes or so to kind of walk through our worksheet. So the very first thing we have going on is asking ourselves, what is the target market we want to work on with this value proposition worksheet? Because when you're writing a value proposition, you're really writing it for a specific target market and then a specific product and service. So we're going to start with this question, and I have this in a chat box format in the middle of the Adobe page, and if you guys would type in really what of the target markets that you have in your program, which one do you want to keep top of mind as we move through this worksheet together? You've got students and preceptors and your hiring organizations. You can describe that in a small or with lots of words or with one word, but just think about who it is that you want to keep top of mind while we're working through this value proposition design. Great, I'm seeing some good answers. I'm hoping you guys can keep writing in as we talk. So, and if you have more specific, like maybe your students, you really are thinking about just high schoolers, or as Patricia said, she's thinking about those displaced coal industry workers and veterans as the folks that you're really focusing on for the program. Great. I'm going to add a couple more pods here. I'm shrinking this up because I've got some other things coming. Yep, college students and allied health students, hiring organizations. So the very first thing to think about after you've selected your target market, so they're the ones that are focusing your thinking, is to ask yourself, well, what is the kind of work that they are trying to do? What is the job that they're working on or the problem that they're trying to solve? So think about that one particular target market as fine-tuned or in a little broader sense as you wish. And this is a short answer pod, so you can type your answer in here, and if you would put your name first and then a comma and then your answer, then it's a little bit easier to have conversation or see what each other are thinking about. So Kristen, overcoming mental barriers to self-improvement. So that would be the kind of thing, let's see, Kristen, you had local residents who want to pursue a degree with a school. So what they're trying to do also, I would say maybe overcoming mental barriers, and one of the things is they want to be able to be hired. So if they're local residents, they want to get a job in their local environment. That might be one of the jobs they're trying to do as well. You've stated one of the problems they're trying to overcome, which is great. REBA's target market is trying to retain allied health workers. So this is what we're thinking about, is what they're actually doing, the type of work that your target market is trying to do. What do they want? Kind of in a general sense, you would say that students are wanting to get hired. So Cindy, I'd like you to think about the job not as what, let's see, I might take it back. So if Cindy, your target market are college students, then what your college students are trying to do is they're trying to graduate and probably get a job. So you're thinking that you're encouraging them, and that's going to come later on in our worksheet. But right now, Mark, you've put down gain basic training as an entry into a healthcare career. So that's what they're really trying to do. That's well said as well. Pat, you're talking kind of about the results of the work again. So just think about what are your displaced coal industry workers and veterans trying to do? They're trying to, maybe another way to think about it is if you're an unemployed or displaced coal industry worker or veteran, one of the things that you're trying to do is have a stable financial income. You know, that might be another thing that you could imagine your target market. They're trying to, one of the problems they're trying to solve is that they've got too much flexibility or not enough stability in their financial lives, or they're underqualified for the job that they really want, so they want a promotion, that kind of a thing. Yep, Angie, trying to become more employable. So if your target market was a student, that's what you would be thinking about. So questions out there for folks on this. I think I'm seeing some good specific answers to the question, what are some of the work this group is trying to do or the problems they're trying to solve? Great, Patricia, that's nice. Gain knowledge and skills leading to a new career. And Chris trying to figure out what they're going to do for their profession or where they're going to begin. Yep. Good. Well, I'm going to, Angie keeps making that box bigger, but I'm going to scoot it back up again. And I have another pod to bring in. So these next two, I'm going to start us on just one. Let's see, make it a little smaller. If it gets too small, I'll rearrange these things a little bit. You can always use the scroll bar over to the side of each one of these pods to look at answers that are a little bit lower down. So the next question is, for this target market, what do they experience as a pain? So when we use the word pain, we're saying, what is it that makes them really unhappy? What is their challenge or their struggle? If they're trying to gain knowledge and skills leading to a new career with stability, what's the challenge to them in doing that? So think about your target market. And great, Angie says no educational facility in the community. And there's travel to clinic rotations is expensive and costs time. So that's right. These are the kinds of pains. Keep putting your thoughts down there, because we're practicing using our worksheet and understanding what this idea is of a pain based on your target market. There's tuition costs, distance to travel, that's right. So the next part I'm going to, while you're continuing to think about that, I'm just going to pull up the next one because it's related. It's kind of the other side of the coin of a pain, and that is, what is your target market hoping for? So what are the gains? What would make them really happy? If it's almost like a wish list, thinking about it a little bit like a wish list, what does that target market consider a gain or a positive thing, something that makes their life easier, meets their expectations? What are some of those positive things that this very same target market that you've been thinking about would be a gain? Good, Cindy. I like that, the pain that you had identified. Great. Yep, Kristen, that's good. Yes, Pat, living expenses for family while someone's going and not working but getting an education, and having enough time is a pain. And oftentimes pains and gains, it's kind of a different way of thinking about sometimes the same idea, but what comes to your mind would be a gain? Nice, Kristen. That's right. A career that they enjoy, not just a paycheck. That's a great insight. And what we're really doing here is in step one, this is like a needs assessment, and you're looking to gain understanding of your target market, what really, how they see the world and what is important to them. There's lots of ways of going about gathering this data. We're doing it in a practice environment just out of our own heads, but you could, it'd be very realistic for you to do some surveys and focus groups, or ask students when you get a chance of why are they in school, what are the things that cause them struggle, and what are the things that they wish for. So there's lots of ways of gathering this data. And when you're going into the worksheet, what you want to eventually get to is a summarized place where you're looking at your own synthesis and of all of the pains and gains of your members, or your target market is more accurate. Nice job with that, you guys. So I'm going to move us along so that we keep going. And what we do, that step one was the needs assessment. Now step two, what we're talking about, is starting to translate what you understand the needs of your target market into what can my allied health program do to relieve the pains or create those gains. So the pains again is on the left, and pains on the left, gains on the right. And what you're thinking about is that same target market, the job they're trying to get done, the problem they're trying to solve, the pains that they experience, and the gains that they wish for or expect, and translate that into, well, what could my allied health program do to help relieve those pains or create those gains? Now, many of you have been working in this process, and you already actually have some good thinking and answers for how do you relieve these pains and create the gains. Cindy says, coordinate rural clinic rotations close to residents and developing an online course. So that's how to relieve those pains. Chris Morrison is figuring out what type of work they want to do for meaningful employment. Nice thinking. Make the programs more accessible, such as online access. Good thoughts. And on the gain side, there's some of those opportunities for delivering whatever your target market is really hoping for. Sure, so open opportunities for students. So perhaps the pain or the worry for students is that they're not going to get a job. They're going to invest all of this time and energy into getting an education, and then will there be job openings? So what the Allied Health Program can do is create opportunities for students to get jobs.
So, Cap, I'm just looking in the chat box. Kristen asked, couldn't we develop separate marketing strategies for specific market segments?
Yes, and really this value proposition, Kristen, is a move us almost like an action item inside of a marketing strategy, because what we're really working towards is thinking through our language and really knowing our target markets. And specific market segments, I would say I'm using synonymous or interchangeably with target market. There's a lot of words out there, and they might have slightly different meanings, but for today, I really would be able to interchange that. So a market segment or a target market. You marketing folks out there that have a deeper knowledge of the lingo can disagree with me, but for now we're going to keep those pretty synonymous. Evan, yes, offering night classes, because maybe one of the pains is that you can't not work. So you have to add your education onto your already full-time employment. So if that's one of the pains, then this would be a solution for them. And Angie, ensuring quality preceptor sites perhaps the gain that was wished for was being able to use, have really meaningful experiences in the clinical setting that augments and complements the didactic environment of your training. So the answer would be making sure you have really high quality preceptor sites to meet that wish that your target markets have. So again, we're really focusing on understanding now what organizationally you can do to make those pains go away or make those gains come true. So I'm going to add the next pod, and here basically is sometimes it's imagination, especially if you're getting some fresh ideas, but this is really the product and service that you could do or are doing in order to deliver what you've been thinking about in the relieving pains and creating gain section. And it comes in here at this place because sometimes you're in the product development environment. So a year and a half ago, you guys were really in the design phase and like, well, what should our curriculum look like? So now that you've developed your curriculum now, so it's a year and a half into your program, by going through this exercise, what you're really doing is double checking the design of your product and service. So as you think through your target markets and you consider what your students are struggling with as an example of a target market, you double check that your curriculum is designed in order to meet those needs of your target market. So yep, providing student scholarships is a great service to provide for those difficult struggles that students have affording education or traveling to get there. Chris Morrison offering that internship. So the product and service of offering an internship is tied to that worry that the job isn't going to be meaningful. So they get to check it out first, so to speak. Offering different class times, Mark, yep, so that the flexibility for the students that need more, where their pain is that they just can't, they don't have much flexibility in their time, so that offering classes like asynchronous classes where they don't have to be there at a specific date or time is very helpful. I think you guys are getting a good idea. So the reason this is step 2 is because we really haven't yet gotten to articulating the value proposition, but what you're doing at this stage is analyzing and synthesizing the data that you got at step 1, which was the needs assessment. So we're moving right into the very next, the third step of our worksheet. And again, we've got two sides, a pains on the left and a gains on the right. And what we're doing now is select one of those products and services. So when you're writing a value proposition, you're writing it for a target market related to a product or service. And now is the work of being very specific and succinct. So you say, if my target market is students and my curriculum is a specific allied health training curriculum that's being delivered online in a totally remote asynchronous environment, so that's my product and that's my target market, what would be the very specific pain that I am alleviating? So we're not talking brainstorming anymore. We're writing down what is it that this particular product and service will provide to that target market that they would value, because it's built out of their need. And likewise, the same thinking, but what is the gain that's being created by providing this very specific product and service to a specific target market. I'm going to pull up the last pod as well because I want to make sure that, so the difference here, the top two are where you can create basically bullet points. You can be a little bit messy, a little bit verbose. So again, remember what we're doing is practicing using a tool, a value proposition designing worksheet, and we're at the stage where we are considering those, how one particular product and service is meeting the needs of a particular target market. So the example could be students, and I've created an online course for them. So what is it that the problem I'm solving, and what good news am I creating for them? That's the top two boxes. And the box number 9 is literally writing out your value proposition. So what is it about this product and service that my target market really cares about? And it's the getting down to the basics. So I'm going to write one too. Just take a couple minutes to think about it. It's so just to put together some of my thinking, just as an example, the value proposition, I think, for the online course I'm creating for college students as my target market is that it's flexible and not expensive. And it, I'm going to say, prepares for a specific job in the local hospital. So Patricia, I like where you're going with that opportunity for changing the outcome, but I'm going to ask you to see if you can put it in language of your target market. So we've gone through this exercise so that you could think through how would my target market express why they value this particular product and service. So yeah, it does give them opportunity for changing their own outcome, but I'm doubting that a displaced coal miner would use those exact words. So what would your target market say? What language would they use to say, I enrolled in that class and committed my time and energy because it benefits me in this way? And what this exercise is about is to help you guys practice getting into the heads of those target market folks, because a value proposition is really simply articulating the product and service you're offering in words that your target market understands as benefiting, that they can relate to and resonates with them, that they would also benefit from it. Sure, Mark, nice. So it's a solid starting point for their careers. It's a way to gain experience and make some money. So it gives them, some folks will be looking for not just making money, but having financial security. And what I know about Mark is he's thinking about really young people. His target market are high schoolers, whereas Pat's target market are going to be folks that aren't 19 and 20, maybe even younger years old. So they have a different perspective. Yes, nice, Pat, you've said basically stable employment, professional career. So you're speaking now in the language of the folks that they don't have to think very hard about why it benefits them to be a part of this. And what I'm going to suggest is that each one of these steps of questions, they might seem like they're not very different from each other, but what it is it's shifting your own thinking as you move through to the last phase of articulating a succinct and impactful value proposition. So nice, Cindy, provides a rural clinic experience. It's individualized and it's cost effective. And Angie offers that it's flexible online. It assists them with travel. It's got money. It's scholarships, so it's affordable. That's great. So I'm going to go on to one more template because I want to take just a few minutes to capture some notes. And I know we haven't been, you guys haven't been talking yet, but I'd love to hear your voices. How are you or could you use these value propositions within your marketing efforts? And I think what I'm going to do is I have these notes, but I would really like it if you guys would talk to me. But I'm also going to add a chat because that lets you just type it in there. So you can do it either way. How using for your marketing. So anyone willing to put your voice out on the phone for us? How might you use this value proposition within your marketing? Or you probably already are, so just reporting on how you're using that thinking. Chris, let's see, Chris Morrison, can I pick on you?
Sure.
Yay. How are you using some of what you know about your target markets in your marketing?
Well, basically, one of the things that we're doing is just kind of looking at the various kinds of media that our age groups as well as kind of our niche groups of college students as well as people coming back in and they've completed some college hours, but they still have a ways to go. So just targeting those groups and kind of figuring out what they listen to, what they're needing, and so we try to make our internship possible so that people can be able to do all the things that they need to do, as well as kind of promote their own self-worth by being able to get more certifications and hands-on experience, while also, people are going to have to work as well as go to school at the same time sometimes. So just being able to listen to what they are needing as well as what they are enjoying. So, that's why we've started doing the podcast, where we're reaching out to people through Facebook and just trying to emphasize to people, one, that all of our services are absolutely free, because that's basically the universal language for, okay, you have me listening now. So being able to say that and be able to say that this is kind of a new situation or a possibility that you never even thought of before really helps out with marketing.
Yep. So you're using that needs assessment. I know you guys have done a pretty thorough needs assessment, but thinking about it through the lens of that needs, what they're struggling with, their problems they're trying to solve, will help you in the messaging and also in the design of your marketing material as well. So you guys, Chris mentioned converting to podcasts and using that because his age group is open to that kind of information. Thank you, Chris. Any others that are using some of their marketing materials based off of what they've learned in their needs assessment or something that they thought about just today as they were considering the pains and gains of their target markets? Mark says using the market more aggressively, just not to students, but who want to be nurses and paramedics, but to any students looking into healthcare. Thank you, Mark. And Cindy is educating new students coming into the programs through career services about the IRWIN opportunities and using brochures and vendors at events. And so you can also really be specific in the language that you put together in those brochures and speaks very specifically to the benefits that your target market are looking for. And that's nice, Christy, exactly. Focus on those benefits rather than just the features. And also be sensitive to the different target markets. So everyone's going to, well, everyone comes to an engagement with considering what's in it for them. And so your funders are going to have a different benefit that they're going to be perceiving. Your hiring organizations are, your hiring organization leaders are, which is going to be different than your preceptor people. Your HR folks are going to think different things than the leaders of the departments that the allied health folks will be hired into. So you have a lot of different targets, and your language should be specific. So I guess that's the skinny on today's presentation is be very precise and articulate about those value propositions, because if you're not getting engagement, it might be because people aren't understanding the benefit that they'll get out of participating. So that is the content of our worksheets. As I said, we'll be posting those to the website. I'm going to move on to our another page of our Adobe Connect. Yeah.
Kat, I'm sorry, this is Angie. Can I throw one thing out there before we move into this next section?
Yep.
I just wanted to, Christy had posted something in the chat box. She wants to know if anyone is offering an online program that could be used by the other Rural Network Allied Health grantees, the didactic portion. And that's a question out to all of the other networks or grantees on the line. She'd be interested to know how those offerings, night classes, are able to address all of the required didactic and practical components. Our local lab program, for example, is pretty much a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, 2.5-year program. If someone with night classes would be willing to share via email or a phone call, please reach out to Kristen. And it looks like Cindy's typing, but I wanted to be sure that folks saw that in the chat box. So you can go ahead, Cap.
Great. Thank you, Angie. This page that I've pulled up, we have a question for you all, and the poll question's at the bottom of the page and the information's at the top of the page. But we have a partnership meeting that we get to plan again for this coming 2017, where we all get together. And last year we were in Indiana, and this year we are looking for a new spot. And so your interest in the National Cooperative of Health Networks has a meeting that we could tag on to either a day before or a day after, and it's being held in Bozeman, Montana in April 25th through 27th. So our meeting would either be on the 24th or the 28th. I haven't even looked. Let's see. Yep, a Monday or a Friday. And if you aren't familiar with NCHN, their mission is to support and strengthen rural health networks. And these annual conferences are educational in nature. There's usually 80 to 100, sometimes a little bit more on the participant level. They do have a national scope with rural health network leaders. They bring in a lot of diverse different organizations, young ones, new, older networks. They have networks of all different shapes and sizes. Usually the presenters are network leaders, but they also bring in a keynote or some subject matter experts from outside for various different topics as well. So that would be one. The other option, a second of three options, actually, I think, Angie, would you edit the poll and add a question on the poll that is simply not attached to an unattached or not attached. So, so the second out of three options is that we go next to the National Rural Health Association. That meeting is happening in San Diego on May 9th through the 12th, and we again would be on either side of that, or probably take up either the 12th, the Friday, or the 8th, or a combination between the afternoon of the 8th and the morning of the 9th, something like that. But the NRHA is a large organization. It's the National Rural Health Association. They have an annual conference. It's the nation's largest rural health conference. They're created for lots of types of organizations in healthcare. So they've got, you know, like lines of topics where they have similar ideas, where themes, I guess, of their education. The presenters are mixed subject matter experts and healthcare leaders. Their mission is to provide leadership on rural health issues through advocacy, communication, education, and research. And then the last option is simply not to attach to a larger conference and find a date and time and hold it someplace reasonable where we would get together for a day and learn from each other. So please.
Cindy says that they're going to be presenting at the NRHA annual conference about their program, and Stephanie Taylor, just as an FYI, says that the national AHEC policy days are April 25th through the 27th, so anyone from an AHEC may be attending that venue in DC.
Okay. Okay, good to know that, Stephanie. Thanks. All right, and well, I'm going to, any other votes, because I'm about to change the page here. We have just a minute or so left. If you do get to thinking about it and you want to send either Angie and I a note, that sounds fine. I'm going to go to our last page now and hand it over to Angie for wrapping up.
Sure. So as we talked about earlier, there's just three quick questions, eval questions, if you take just a second to answer those. Next to the upcoming events, there's one final question, just an open-ended answer box if there's any topics that have come to mind or kind of sparked your memory during today's call that you would like us to touch on in a future webinar or peer group call. Type that in the comments or suggestions pod. But upcoming events, next Wednesday we have a peer group call, and it will be kind of a follow-up and a continuation of today's call. We're going to be talking about marketing efforts. It's going to be, we're hoping it'll be real interactive with you all, sharing with each other the things that you're currently doing in regard to student recruitment and marketing, what's working, what's not working. We're also going to present the results from the survey that you all took. I want to thank you all for completing that survey on student recruitment marketing efforts. We'll have the summary of those results to present to you during that peer group call as well. January starts our next round of TA check-in calls, and they should all be on your calendars already. We've got some at the beginning of the month, some in the middle, and some don't fall till the end, but I'll be in touch with you with reminders about those. So be thinking about any TA that you might have for those calls. I'm just double checking to see if, I think we're also going to be doing some recruitment and retention plan follow-up during that call as well. And then our next webinar is scheduled for February 8th, and we're going to be talking about the investment into staff satisfaction and the cost of turnover. So those are a few of the things coming up. We did send out a syllabus to everyone via email. There is a syllabus on the website as well, keeping in mind that it is a fairly fluid document and that some of these topics and dates may change if necessary due to scheduling conflicts, or if there's another topic area that comes up for you all that's especially important. Boy, with that, I don't have anything else. I do want to give Marcia a chance to say anything if she has any thoughts, comments, announcements. Marcia says, unfortunately, no update on the EHB submission directions. I have raised the request to Tier 2, and I'll follow along with Marcia in the chat box. While we're waiting for Marcia to finish typing, does anyone else have any final thoughts, questions, comments? Marcia says, PIMs have been approved and we're waiting for it to be placed in the EHB by the contractor. So I'm thinking we all just sit tight till we hear back, till we hear more from the EHB about the submitting of your recruitment and retention plan. With that, we are about 4 minutes over. I apologize for that, but thank you all for participating. Thank you so much, Cap.